Hello, this episode is called Clearing the Duty-Free Mall. So, there was I don't know, probably, I want to say about a 4-story building just outside of our FOB in Baghdad. Our FOB is a forward operating base where we lived, basically. Now, granted, we had like 30-foot walls around our entire perimeter of our FOB with guard towers, you know, all over the place, up against the wall, looking over the wall. So, you know, it was very hard for anyone to really look inside the FOB unless you were in it. With the exception of this duty-free mall that was just outside the south perimeter of the FOB. And like I said, it was about 5 stories or so. So if you were, you know, up in the upper floors or on the roof of this thing, you could easily peer into the FOB. And of course, it wasn't part of the FOB, so it didn't have the perimeter wall around it. It was open and accessible to the locals. So it was unoccupied. It was, like I said, at one point in its prime, it was built as a duty-free mall, literally a multi-leveled mall. I don't know what type of products that they sold in this mall, but it was a good size. And I likened it almost to, like, if you go to a large department store in a big city, like a multi-tiered department store that has escalators, you know, in it to get to different floors. It was very similar to that. It actually had escalators in it. Now, of course, when we started to move into Iraq from Kuwait initially in 2003, everything just went to shit in Iraq, and all of the, you know, any sense of structured law enforcement, you know, organizational government, all that collapsed, and it was just a free-for-all, a heyday, and everything got looted. It was like Ferguson on steroids, and anything that like could be stripped away, stolen, scrapped was. So, and we're talking like, you know, you go into any of these buildings like the mall, and even the stairs of the escalator were removed and sold as scrap. All of the light fixtures on the wall, like all of the, you know, copper cabling was stripped out. I mean, it was just gutted, absolutely gutted. So there was no electricity going to this thing. There was no obstacles per se in terms of, like, you know, store shelves or furniture. I mean, it was just a gutted, empty, hollow building, and all the windows were broken out. It was just desolate. But when we first got to Iraq, we immediately saw that as, wait a minute, you know, if somebody was on top of that thing, they could easily look into our FOB. When was the last time anyone walked into that and cleared it, you know, looked for enemy activity or whatever? And we asked the folks that we were replacing, and they're like, oh, no, we've never gone in there. We're like, what? Are you kidding me? You never cleared that building? And they're like, no. So we knew, you know, that was on the first list of things we had to do, and it was. We rounded up a couple of sections. I don't even know, maybe a platoon and a half worth of guys. Probably needed more for the size of this thing, but regardless. And we didn't have to take vehicles because it was so close, literally right outside the FOB. So we walked out the front gate, we walked over to this building, and we assessed kind of the situation, you know, what type of ingress and egress routes did it have, how accessible was it to the public, you know, the borders or the edges of these buildings, you know, it was up against whose property on the outside, that kind of thing. So we did kind of an exterior perimeter analysis, just to kind of get a sense for what we were dealing with. And then we knew we had to go in, and So it was, I mean, it was in March, April-ish time frame. So it was, when we first got there, pretty much. And we were doing this during the day, so it was bright outside, and really bright outside, and warm. And we stacked on the building, and we got ready to enter. We didn't hear anything, couldn't see anything, and we decided to go for it. So we started to enter, and normally when you stack on a building and you breach it or you enter it, you're going in at maximum pace. You're clearing rooms, you're all of that. But this was such a big building. We knew we had to kind of be very cautious and take our time and clear whatever we were going to come across, rooms, whatever it was. So as soon as we entered this thing, it was pitch black. Like, you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. Even though it was in the middle of the day, there was no light getting into this building whatsoever. It was just so dark. And we had Surefire flashlights on, mounted on our M4s, and we popped those on. But still, even as bright as those Surefire flashlights were, the building was so big and so vast and so dark that the light from the flashlight would just get consumed by the open spaces of darkness. It was just, you couldn't even see the flashlight shine on the wall of the opposite side of the building. We're talking some of these rooms are just huge rooms. And so we're doing the best we can with trying to clear this room by room, and try not to get split up or lose each other at the same time. And we didn't have a blueprint or a footprint or schematics of this building. I had no idea how it was structured, what we were going to come across. We knew it was multi-leveled. We didn't know if there was going to be any type of bombed out infrastructure, collapsing ceilings. We had no idea what we were going to come across. So we're probably I don't know, not even 5 minutes into this sweep of this huge building, and we go into this room, and there was this wild dog, and it just started barking and coming at us, and it was like I don't know if you've seen the movie Cujo. It was like this. I don't think it was rabid, but it might as well have been. It was like this rabid, large dog, like a shepherd size or golden retriever type sized dog. It wasn't a poodle, man. It was a good sized dog, and it had teeth, a lot of them. And he was mad that we had disrupted him, and he comes lunging at us, and Herps, my driver, he's kind of at point. He's kind of right there, and we all scream like little girls, and we haul ass. We run right out of the building, all of us, and we get on the outside of the building, and we're just shitting ourselves. And the dog ends up following us out. He runs out of the building and kind of runs away, and we're like, oh my god! I think our first sergeant was with us at the time, and he looks at us, and he was just as scared shitless as the rest of us, to be honest with you. Then he said, all right, we're going back in. We come across any more of those dogs, shoot the damn things. All right, we will definitely do that. So we ended up going back in, and we ended up sweeping the entire building and clearing it and whatnot. And there wasn't really, other than just garbage and trash, and the squatters were living in there. There wasn't anything except when we got to the top of the roof, there was this small maintenance building kind of on top of the roof of the structure, which made it basically the uppermost elevation point of the building. And there was these cinder block bricks that were leaned up against this shed building on top of the roof. and it looked like stairs almost, and we're like, that's odd. So we climbed up these stairs and we looked on top of this little building on top of the roof, and there was like a mat laid out and some empty like candy wrappers and some food and a bottle, you know, some bottles of water. There was nobody up there, but the mat was laid in such a way where if you were laying in the prone position, you could easily peek over the lip of that top of that little shed building and peer right into our entire fob and see everything that's going on. And if you had a sniper rifle, you could have just picked off people in our fob for days. So there was definitely somebody up there keeping tabs on, you know, the movement inside the fob. They didn't, as far as I know, they didn't shoot anybody, but it was too valuable of a position to give away by picking people off. Because if you're a sniper and you're up there, you might be able to hit a couple of people, but your position's going to be compromised. Somebody's going to eventually figure out where you are, take you out, or even if you get away, they're going to make sure that location is no longer accessible. And like I said, it was one of the only spots that you could actually get eyes inside the fob. So whoever was up there watching the inside of the fob and looking at troop movement, they did not want to give up that position because it was too valuable in terms of intelligence. But since we found it, we knew it was there. We ended up kind of knocking that down, getting rid of it, and we ended up getting concertina wire and completely like strung up all access points of this building, windows, doors. There was no way anybody was getting in there, at least not without a fight. And we made routine patrols to check out the perimeter and to see if any of our obstacles or wire had been breached and things like that, make sure nobody was getting in there. So we solved that problem, but it just goes to show you that, you know, yeah, we were dealing with a lot of you know, a lot of bad shit over there, and it was everywhere. You know, you didn't have to go far to find crooked activity going on in Baghdad for sure, and I'm sure that's true for everywhere else in Iraq and Afghanistan at the time. All right, good story. Till next time.